Hello and welcome to your weekly roundup from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. Wow. 15 minutes late. Sorry about that, guys. I'm doing my absolute best. I literally parked my car 6 minutes ago. So I threw on a shirt real quick and got down here. Forgive me for all of that, but we're doing the best that we can. But I appreciate all of you so much for being so patient and waiting around. And this is not one that you're going to want to miss because this has been one heck of a week, including the events just of today. So I'm so glad that all of you are here. Thank you. Thank you again. Welcome to the show, Josh. Thank you so much. I feel like you guys could have just handled this without me anyways. You excuse me. I approve that. You forgive me. It says Jade. She's been a member for 2 months. I appreciate you all being so kind and understanding. And hello to Alicia K. Mayo, Little Miss Red Velvet, Felicia Herbstreet, Afton and Kelly and Kathy Mama Bear. Thank you guys all so much for being here. And for everybody who's watching on either X or on Facebook, if you're there and you feel the impulse, go ahead and comment. Let us know that you're watching and let us know where you're watching from. We would love to hear from you. So hello to everyone. If you're returning, hello to those of you who are new. If you are new, welcome. I think you're going to enjoy this. And if you stuck around the extra 15 minutes to wait for me, I appreciate you again. And for those new people, let me introduce myself. My name is Joshua Ritter. I'm a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I was there for about 10 years. I left to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney. We decided to start this channel, Courtroom Confidential, with the mission statement of presenting to you both sides of the courtroom. And this is our big show. This is the show that we started with. It is called the Weekly Roundup, and it is your recap on all things this week in true crime. So we're going to get started in one quick second here. As always, take a deep breath. It's Friday. It may have been 15 minutes late, but that doesn't make it any less of a Friday. Allie Foley, thank you so much for gifting the Courtroom Confidential memberships and kicking us off this afternoon. Appreciate you and your generosity. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with anyone that you might think would enjoy it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get rolling. First up, verdict watch for Massachusetts man Brian Walshe, charged with murdering his wife, followed by disturbing Google searches describing how to dismember and dispose of her body. Plus, healthcare CEO shooter Luigi Mangione is back in court with further efforts to keep key pieces of evidence out of his trial. And Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating conservative activist Charlie Kirk, asked the judge to keep cameras out of the courtroom. All this and more this week on Courtroom Confidential. Lots for us to dive into this week. As you can tell, as always, we are honored that you have chosen us to bring you these updates. I am your host, Joshua Ritter. I'm an award-winning Los Angeles prosecutor turned criminal defense attorney with 20 years experience navigating the criminal justice system, bringing you my unique insights from both sides of the courtroom. Today is Friday, December 12th, 2025, and this is your Courtroom Confidential weekly roundup. Let's jump in. Jury deliberations began today, Friday, in the murder trial of Brian Walshe, one day after his defense team unexpectedly rested without calling a single witness, even though Walshe was expected to testify. The Cohasset man is accused of killing his wife, Anna Walshe, on New Year's Day, 2023, dismembering her and discarding her remains in dumpsters across the region. Defense attorney Larry Tipton began his closing argument Friday saying the Commonwealth has no proof that Walshe, a quote, loving husband and loving father, ever thought about harming the woman he loved. Tipton said there is evidence Walshe lied to police, searched the internet, and disposed of a body, but there is no evidence he committed murder. Quote, without a motive, without a reason that is based on facts and circumstances, logic and understanding, without that, you have a sudden and unexpected event that results in confusion and panic and fear, Tipton said. More than 3,000 records were taken from Walsh's computer. However, not one record refers to any plan to murder Anna, Tipton told jurors. Assistant District Attorney Ann Yaz In closing, for the prosecution, pointed to a marriage in crisis that was heading to a breaking point. Quote, Anna Walshe is dead because Brian Walshe murdered her, Yaz said as she pointed to Walshe. Quote, he cut up Anna's body, the woman he claimed to love, and threw her in dumpsters. He was hiding her body. Please do not allow the defendant's self-serving act of dismembering and disposing of Anna's body let him get away with this murder, Yaz said before asking jurors to find the defendant guilty of premeditated first-degree murder. Judge Diane Frenier told the jurors they will be able to deliberate on not just first-degree murder, which requires prosecutors to prove premeditation, but also second-degree murder, which requires a lower burden of proof. Walshe pled guilty last month to lesser charges of misleading police and willfully disposing of a human body. He faces life in prison without the possibility of parole if convicted of murder. Jurors paused deliberations after almost 4 hours on Friday and will resume on Monday morning. Well, what's happening here? First of all, who's surprised? Who lost a bet? Who thought that that deliberation was going to end today and we would have a verdict on a Friday afternoon? I am guilty. I'm one of them. I thought that there was no way we would go into the weekend with the facts presented in this case, the evidence in this case. So I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised just at that. I think the biggest surprise this week, everyone was surprised, in fact, and a little upset by the idea that Brian Walshe decided not to testify. Not only did he decide not to testify, but his defense team decided not to put on one single witness. So the judge was upset. I think the judge was upset because it blindsided her. She was expecting something else. She's planning, she's scheduling, she's trying to keep everybody happy, and she wants to make sure that she gets this case to the jurors with enough time for them to deliberate and not waste anybody's time. The jury, they're probably a little upset too. As a matter of fact, they showed up on Thursday, got out of bed, put on their clothes, got their little notebooks out, and then sat there to be told to just turn right back around and come back tomorrow. Again, a little bit of waste of time. But as confused, surprised, and upset as everybody may have been, I'll tell you who was most upset, most confused, most surprised, perhaps even, were his attorneys, because they got hung out to dry. There is no way that they would ever write the kind of check that they did in those opening statements if they did not believe that he was going to testify. You just don't do that strategically. Most defense openings are very vague. They might even be a very simple, something along the lines of, hey, the burden is on the people. Please make sure that you keep an open mind. Please wait to the very end. We're going to present some evidence to you. Wait for our cross-examinations. Please, please, please just give us a chance here, but don't make up your mind from the very beginning. The prosecution wants to be very specific. They want to lay out their case because they know exactly what it's going to be. So they hope, and they try to give a roadmap. But the defense is usually a little more keeping their cards close to their chest because they want to make sure they can pivot. They can adapt. They can respond. After all, they are the defense, and they should be responding to what the prosecution is doing. So when you have an opening statement that starts out with, these are the very specific details you're going to hear about how Brian Walshe discovered Anna's body. Remember, it wasn't, you're going to hear that Brian happened upon her body and was surprised that she was dead. It included very specific details about him nudging her, even this kind of ridiculous idea about him nudging her to the point that she fell off of the bed. And then we get nothing. Like I said, rule number one for the defense, you don't have a burden. But if you write checks, you better be able to cash them. And I don't think that they did that here. And I don't think they were able to adequately pivot from that. I think that Tipton did a serviceable job. He tried to say, listen, there's no evidence to support how she died. The prosecution can't give you anything. That's because her body is still missing. And therefore, the idea that sudden death could occur is something that you've heard about. And therefore, that is really the only logical thing that you're left with. Again, a little bit of weak tea. But one other thing is at play here. And it's a bigger deal than you might realize. And that is the idea that the judge added this second-degree murder right before deliberations, allowing jurors to consider this. And this is very important here because I do feel this case, I know a lot of people might feel differently, but I do feel that this case is a bit of a stretch for first-degree murder to show premeditation. Now, you might be saying, well, isn't he getting the advantage of the fact that he hid her body? Maybe. But the burden rests on the prosecution. They're the ones who have to prove everything. And yes, he made it much more difficult for them to do that by disposing and hiding her body. But still, that doesn't change the burden. The burden is they have to show somehow that he put some thinking, some premeditation, some planning into this murder, and that it didn't just happen out of nowhere in the spur of the moment, in the heat of passion. But doesn't it seem like that's what this looks like? Doesn't it seem like two people who were reaching a boiling point or a breaking point? And I agree with that. But that's more towards motive and less towards planning. It seems to me like something happened that evening that we don't really have evidence of any kind of planning for ahead of time. But something happened that evening that caused him to snap, is the way I think the defense would put it, or make a decision is the way the prosecution would put it. But those frantic Google messages, Google searches that we find after are most indicative to me of somebody who wasn't planning. I mean, if he was planning at least days in advance, you imagine he'd go out on his little shopping spree ahead of time, but he didn't. And in fact, it was almost like he's at that moment decided he's got to figure out now what to do with her body. To me, that lends itself more to a second-degree murder. But it's going to be up to the jurors. They're obviously taking their time to deal with all of this and go through the evidence. And I am always encouraging of that. I don't think we're at any point where we need to be worried about if they're going to be hung. But, you know, you're dealing with a case where there was a motive was still at question. Evidence of premeditation was at question. And the burden, as always, remains on the people. But what do you guys think? Am I wrong here? Am I missing something? Do you think there is enough for first-degree murder? Please let us know in the comments. Ann Potter says, this is second degree. I think a lot of people might be feeling the same way as you, Ann. Little Miss Red Velvet said second degree all along. Well, it sounds like at least we've got 2 votes in that direction. And Cody in Tennessee, thank you so much for the super chat and your generosity, says, I Googled murder 1 charges. Docs from Massachusetts, and murder 2 is built so it is a lesser included. If I did my research right. Sounds like you did, and sounds like the judge did that same research. 2 officers who responded to the Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's, where accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione was arrested, testified Thursday that police did not need a warrant to search his backpack. Mangione returned to court in New York City for the 6th day of a hearing that will determine what evidence can be used at his upcoming trial for gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a Manhattan sidewalk last December. Body camera footage played in court showed Sergeant John Burns discussing the situation with officers. Quote, at this point, we probably need a search warrant. Corporal Garrett Trent is heard saying after officers rummaged through Mangione's bag and found a loaded handgun magazine. Burns testified, quote, I said it doesn't matter. He's under arrest for a crime he's committed here in Pennsylvania. So it's search incident to arrest. My decision was we did not need a search warrant. Burns said he later photographed items pulled from the backpack, including a crudely drawn map of Pittsburgh with pluck eyebrows, in quotes, written on the flip side. A red notebook with pages torn out, cash, electronic devices, a Faraday bag, and hygiene items. Defense attorneys argued the lack of a warrant made the search illegal and that officers questioned Mangione after he indicated he preferred to remain silent. Lieutenant William Henley defended the search, saying he directed officers to take Mangione into custody after consulting with an assistant district attorney about charges and that searching his belongings was the next step. Prosecutors are expected to conclude their presentation of evidence next week. Judge Gregory Caro is expected to issue a written decision about the evidence sometime in January. All right. Well, what's happening here? Timing is crucial in the decision-making of this particular issue on both counts, on the Fourth Amendment issues, the search and seizure issues, and on the Fifth Amendment Miranda issues here. So the question comes down to, 1, a timing of when did they have probable cause to make an arrest. If they had probable cause early on and they've made that decision to go ahead and make an arrest, then I think the idea of this is a search incident to arrest becomes much, much stronger. Now, what evidence is there to support that? Well, when officers first make contact with him, and this is what we call a consensual encounter, they ask him, "What's your name?" And he gives them a name. We later learn it's a false name. Then they say, "Do you have some ID?" And he voluntarily provides that to them. He consents to provide them with that ID. Well, the first officer takes it with them, hands it to his partner. And if you know anything about law enforcement, the first thing that they do is get on their little handy dandy radio, and they call that in to find out if there's any quote unquote wants or warrants on this person's identity. Well, what do they find out? They find out it's a bad ID. They find out it's not, in fact, a true ID. They've been provided with a false ID. And right then and there, a crime has been committed in the state of Pennsylvania. And I think that that officer's testimony is right. It is therefore any search of his person, anything within his wingspan, anything that he's carrying on him would be a search incident to arrest. Now, when is he considered to be in custody? That's another timing issue that comes down to the question of Miranda. Custody, though, is an objective standard. It's not a decision made in the officer's head. It's a standard that what would a bystander believe would be when Mangione was actually taken into custody. Well, the defense wants you to believe that that took place very early on, from the fact that he was surrounded by officers who carry a gun on his hip and a badge on their chest. He would not feel objectively free to leave, and therefore he's in custody. The point of that being is that any question or interrogation of him at that point would become custodial interrogation, requiring an advisement of his Miranda rights. The prosecution is going to argue not so quick. That's just officers talking to people. They're allowed to do that. Every time an officer talks to someone, even if it's in the corner in the back of McDonald's, doesn't all of a sudden mean that that person's in custody for the purposes of Miranda. They're allowed to chat with people, and that immediate conversation that they're having is therefore not invoking any kind of Miranda issue. 2, do they really need these statements? I think is the better question. A lot of these statements are self-serving. A lot of these statements don't really move the needle for the prosecution. I don't think they're all that concerned about a lot of the statements. This case is not going to come down to an admission type of case. This case is going to come down to, surveillance video and the items that was found on him, in particular that journal, in particular that gun. That's how they're piecing this case together. They're not looking entirely for the statements of Mangione. The physical evidence here is far more crucial. So I think if the prosecution had their druthers, they would just say, "Hey, keep your statements. Give us the items that we seized. Seized. Pardon me." Finally, what are we learning about this defense team? They're good. They're thorough. They're also very expensive, and they're also giving him his money's worth. They are leaving no stone unturned. They've already had, I think, a significant victory in getting the terrorism allegation thrown out. He's absolutely getting his money's worth. I guess the question to you is, where is all that money coming from? But what do you guys think? Is this to be expected, or is it a bit too much, the amount of lawyering that is taking place at this point? We have a hearing that is taking close to 2 weeks that usually takes about a couple of hours in court. Please let us know in the comments. As a 1990, thank you so much for the super sticker. We appreciate that and appreciate your generosity. Cody in Tennessee, thank you again for the gifted Courtroom Confidential membership. Appreciate your generosity. And Bess Nancy, thank you for the gifted Courtroom Confidential membership. Always appreciate it. Tyler Robinson, the Utah man charged with assassinating Charlie Kirk, made his first in-person court appearance Thursday as attorneys pushed to further limit media access in the high-profile case. Prosecutors have charged the 22-year-old with aggravated murder in the September 10th shooting of Kirk, a popular conservative activist on the Utah Valley University campus. They plan to seek the death penalty. Robinson arrived amid heavy scrutiny, security, shackled at the waist, wrists, and ankles, wearing a dress shirt, tie, and slacks. Until now, Robinson had appeared only by video or audio from jail. Early in the hearing, Judge Tony Graff briefly halted the media live stream and ordered the camera repositioned after Robinson's attorney said it showed the defendant's shackles violating a standing order. Graff warned he would terminate future broadcasts if there was additional violations. Graff is weighing media access as Robinson's attorneys argue the intense coverage could jeopardize a fair trial. Both the defense and the Utah County Sheriff's Office have asked to ban courtroom cameras, but Graff has not yet ruled. National and local news groups are fighting to preserve access. Media attorney David Raymond urged Graff to allow news organizations to weigh in on any future requests for closed proceedings, saying they seek, quote, limited party status. Defense attorney Stacey Visser argued, "We don't want the chaos that is out of the media in this courtroom." Robinson is due back to court on January 16th. That preliminary hearing is tentatively set for the week of May 18th. What's happening here? Well, let me say this first and foremost. I think the transparency of the American criminal justice system is one of the things and one of the big things that distinguishes the U.S. from the rest of the world. It's in our Constitution, in fact. It's so important that the drafters of the Constitution felt open courtrooms were so fundamental towards the idea of fairness, justice, and trustworthiness of the justice system that they wrote it into the Constitution. Now, because of that, we open the doors of every courtroom. We invite the public in just to see how justice is done. Well, with time, so does change what we consider to be the public and their access to that courtroom. And nowadays, that includes cameras. I don't think you can fairly say you have an open and transparent courthouse just by saying the doors are open and anybody from the public who gets in line can go ahead and sit in here and watch. It includes cameras, in my view. It should include cameras, in my view. And in fact, only in the rarest of circumstances should it not include cameras, because we feel that there is a great risk or has already been a demonstrable risk of harming the integrity of the case, which should be the priority to the judge. Another thing about this, why are we so concerned with this charade? Why is this? This is an order made by the judge, by the way. Okay. It's not the law that he cannot be photographed in shackles. It's an order made by the judge. It's not like the legislature sat down and said, that's illegal. This judge just said, you know what? I'm going to make that a ruling here because I do feel that that will promote fairness in this case and prevent him from receiving an unfair shake from the media and therefore the public, and perhaps influencing potential jurors. But it's not some written in stone thing. And by the way, it's the reality of life that he's in shackles. If they happen to catch a moment where he's in shackles, I don't think that should undo the ability for cameras to be in the courtroom. By the way, pick up a newspaper. They can write all about him being in shackles. Listen to a podcast. I'm telling you right now, that man in court, though you may not see a picture of it, is shackled. He is bound by chains. And is that going to somehow throw your sensitive your sensibilities into a dizzy storm that you can't somehow be fair about this case? We all know this man is in custody. Why are we going through this charade? And why is the defense, not the defense, why is the judge allowing himself to be toyed with by the defense at this point? It bothers me, as you can tell. Finally, another thing that bothers me about this case is his cavalier attitude in court. And I've heard other people talk about it like, listen, we don't expect defendants to be completely morose at all times. And I agree with that. But he knows he's on camera today. His first appearance, we've talked about that, his first in-court appearance. And he's dressed up and he's got a shirt and they can't take pictures of his handcuffs. And he's in court and he seems relaxed, cool, smiling, even smug. Reminds me of Mangione. Same kind of cavalier, devil-may-care attitude when going to court. Now, am I being overly critical? Are these people never allowed to have a smile on their face? What I'm identifying is pride. They're proud of what they did. That's entirely what these crimes are about, is sending a message. And they know that message has been sent. And they know it's been received by the entire nation. And that those cameras in courtroom further validate that people are paying attention to what they did. They're proud of what they did. They're proud of this kind of folklore hero position that they've taken on. That's not cool and calm. That's pride. That's smugness. And yeah, it does bother me. But what do you guys think? Do you think cameras should be allowed in most courtrooms? Do you think it should be the default? Or do you think I'm way off? Happy to hear it. Please let us know in the comments. Leanne Dotzel says that Robinson wasn't afraid of cameras when he took out Charlie Kirk. He was on so many cameras. Really excellent point there, Leanne. Appreciate that. True Crime Addicted says, personally, dressing in civilian clothes is a small thing to request. God forbid if I were ever a defendant, at least civilian clothes would help me feel a little bit of dignity. Again, I don't really have a problem with that. Great point, though. Thank you for that comment. And Kathy Mama Bear says he's in custody, for heaven's sake. Shackles, handcuffs, etc. Well, we run the gamut here of opinions at Courtroom Confidential. Appreciate that. Before we get into the other cases making headlines this week, I'm going to ask you to do me one very small favor, and that is, if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel now. It's completely free, and it's a great way to support the channel. We want to continue to provide you with the highest quality content that we possibly can, and the best way that we can do that is through your support. I'm going to give you a content warning on this next story. The following story contains graphic details of the death of a pregnant woman and her baby. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Disturbing new details continue to emerge after the body of a pregnant woman was found in Michigan's Manistee National Forest on November 25th. Rebecca Park, who is 38 weeks pregnant, had been missing since November 3rd when her fiance, Richard Fowler, said she got into a car outside her mother's home telling her, quote, "Hold on, I got somebody to pick me up. This is just something I've got to do. I'm sorry." Her phone was later found near the home. The day after her body was found, Park's sister, Kimberly Park, and Fowler were arrested and later released on reduced bail. Kimberly was arraigned on charges including tampering with evidence, lying to a police officer, and filing a false report. Fowler was arraigned on 2 methamphetamine delivery charges. On December 1st, Park's mother and stepfather, Courtney and Bradley Bartholomew, were arrested and charged with her murder. Probable cause affidavits released this week show Rebecca's own biological mother, Courtney, allegedly confessed to cutting out the fetus and claimed Bradley, her husband and Park's stepfather, said he was the baby's father. She also told police that Bradley killed Park as retaliation against Fowler, who allegedly reported Bradley for violating a condition of his release as a convicted sex offender. Both Courtney and Kimberly also told investigators they were in a relationship with Park's fiance, Fowler. According to the affidavit, Park's body was pushed down an embankment and covered with leaves. The baby was placed in a cooler, then a trash bag, and thrown into a dumpster. Bradley told officers the crime was orchestrated by Courtney, who he said wanted more children but could not adopt because he is a sex offender. Courtney and Bradley faced first-degree murder, felony murder, torture, assault on a pregnant individual, causing miscarriage or stillbirth, and related conspiracy charges, all carrying potential life sentences. They are being held without bail. Kimberly's probable cause hearing is set for Tuesday, December 16th. Courtney and Bradley will return to court on January 9th for their probable cause hearing. We talk a lot about truly horrifying cases on this channel, but this really is in another class of nightmare. Or Tina says, that's a very disturbing case. I think that's putting it lightly. Thank you for that. Alicia K. Mayo says that it's disgusting, diabolical, and a dangerous family. I couldn't agree more. Federal prosecutors said Tuesday they will not seek the death penalty against a former Stoughton, Massachusetts police officer who is charged with killing a 23-year-old woman and her unborn child. In a new filing, U.S. Attorney Leah Foley said the choice came from U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. Quote, the Attorney General of the United States has directed the government not to seek the death penalty in this case. Sandra Birchmore, who was pregnant, died in 2021 inside her Canton apartment, a death initially ruled a suicide. Matthew Farwell has pled not guilty to killing a witness or victim. Prosecutors allege he strangled Birchmore and staged the scene to make it look like she took her own life. A grand jury indictment alleged that Farwell had sex with Birchmore when she was 15 and he was 27. She was part of a youth program called the Stoughton Police Explorers Academy, where he volunteered. According to the indictment, Birchmore told Farwell that he was the father of her unborn child in December of 2020. A friend of hers called Stoughton Police in January and reported that Farwell had been having sex with Birchmore. In October, Farwell was indicted on a second count of killing a witness or victim added under the state's protection of unborn children law. The superseding indictment revealed that she was between 8 and 10 weeks pregnant with a baby boy. Farwell will be in court on Tuesday, December 16th for an interim status conference. He is set to face trial in a Boston federal court in October of 2026. Putting aside whatever moral, religious objections that you may have to the death penalty, if it is on the books, isn't this exactly the type of case it should be reserved for? KL Chip says, Ann Potter, thank you so much for supporting our mods with coffees. We appreciate that, Ann Potter, your generosity. And Elena Bonilla Bad, 9520, says, every little helps. Good to be here. Well, we appreciate you for all of that. Before we get into the rest of the week's cases, I don't know if you've seen the news lately, but there are reports that over 183 million email passwords have been leaked online, including Gmail. This means that hackers can not only get into your Gmail account, but they could get into any account linked to that account, including shopping sites, banks, and subscriptions, you name it. As someone who uses Gmail every day, I worried, obviously. But then I remembered I'm protected by our sponsor, Aura. Aura provides full digital security so you can feel safe even when leaks like this happen. You get dark web alerts, bank fraud monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance all in one app. Try Aura free for 14 days right now. Just go to aura.com/courtroomconfidential. It's free to try, it protects you, and it helps support the show. The mother of a murdered Florida teenager says her 14-year-old daughter was lured into the woods by one of the boys now charged with killing her, a teen she believed had romantic feelings for her. Ashley Troy told reporters that 16-year-old Gabriel Williams pretended to have feelings for her, leading Danica Troy to trust him enough to follow him onto the wooded trail where she was ambushed. That's how she was lured, she said. Williams and 14-year-old Kimarhi Blevins have been charged with first-degree premeditated murder in Danica's death. Ashley said she still has no answers. Quote, I'm just left asking why. She told the outlet she just wanted to be in love. Pardon me. Danica was reported missing on December 1st. Her body was found the next day in a wooded area in Pace, Florida. Investigators said she had been shot multiple times and set on fire. Detectives quickly identified Williams and Blevins, teens who knew her from school, and took them into custody. The boys initially claimed the killing stemmed from a social media dispute, saying Danica had blocked Blevins and called Williams worthless and a gangbanger. Ashley rejected that, labeling what the boys said as nothing but an excuse. Sheriff Bob Johnson described the killing as horrific, alleging Williams stole his mother's handgun before shooting Danica. Both suspects had prior run-ins with law enforcement, he added, though details were not released because of their ages. Johnson said the teens' explanations, quote, don't fit the forensics or any facts of the case, leaving the motive unclear. Both suspects are being held without bond at the Department of Juvenile Justice on first-degree murder charges. Prosecutors are determining whether they will be charged as adults. 16 and 14 years old to commit a cold-blooded murder. It absolutely shocks your conscience. My cat's name is Karen, says, this is in my town. Wow, I can only imagine the devastation that is being felt on that community. And Court Lurker has been a member for 5 months, everybody. She says, love being a CC crew member. I've learned so much. Well, we're very, very happy to hear that. The recently fired University of Michigan football coach was arraigned Friday on stalking and home invasion charges, days after his dismissal over an alleged inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Sherrone Moore faces a felony count of third-degree home invasion and 2 misdemeanor charges of stalking and breaking and entering without the owner's permission. Both misdemeanors are classified as involving a quote-unquote domestic relationship. During the hearing, Moore appeared via video conference. Prosecutors said he had been in an intimate relationship with the Michigan staffer for a number of years, and that she broke up with him on Monday. Afterward, they said, Moore repeatedly called and texted her, prompting her to contact the university and cooperate in its investigation. Moore was fired as a head coach, and prosecutors said that that led him to show up at her home. Once there, he allegedly barged inside, grabbed a butter knife and kitchen scissors, and threatened his own life, telling the staffer, quote, my blood is on your hands, and you ruined my life. Prosecutors say he terrorized her and described him as a risk to public safety. A judge set a $25,000 bond with conditions: regular mental health treatment, a GPS tracker, no contact of any kind with the victim, and remaining within Michigan. His next court date was scheduled for January 22nd. It's hard to think of a greater example of absolutely throwing your life away. He had a prestigious coaching job, wife and children, and all of that is now gone, and maybe his own freedom. Tay Heff says this Michigan coach case is wild. I completely agree. And Ann Potter says, this is by far my favorite true crime info. Thank you so much, Ann Porter, for that. Before we get to what's coming up next week, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of this growing community. But I want to give a very special shout out to Kaylor Sue for your review on Apple Podcasts, and to our CC crew members, Mana F200 and Proud Grizzly, for your comments on YouTube. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. Please keep those reviews coming. We appreciate your help in spreading the word about Courtroom Confidential. On the docket for next week, Stacy Wandra, the Idaho man accused in the 2021 abduction and murder of the 5-year-old Michael Vaughn, will be in court on Monday, December 15th for a status conference, and on Tuesday, December 16th for a preliminary hearing. Tyler McCain, the California man accused of murdering his wife, Nikki Saley McCain, who has been missing since May of 2024, will be in court Tuesday, December 16th for a pretrial hearing. Arkansas man Aaron Spencer, who faces a second-degree murder charge in the fatal shooting of a man accused of grooming and sexually assaulting his own teenage daughter, has a pre-trial hearing on Wednesday, December 17th. And Courtney Clenny, Miami social media influencer accused of fatally stabbing her boyfriend Christian Ubumseli in 2022, will be in court on Friday, December 18th for a bond hearing. And finally, please join us for our special question and answer series, Sunday Fun Day. All are invited to leave us a voice message at thecourtroomconfidential.com, which I will answer live during Sunday's show at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. You can catch the live stream on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Well, that is it for us this week, folks. I am your host, Josh Ritter. You can find us on social media at CR Confidential on X, at The Courtroom Confidential on Instagram, or at thecourtroomconfidential.com. Thank you again for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I will see you again next week for another episode of Courtroom Confidential. All right. I hope that was worth the wait. Sorry again, guys. But, sometimes life happens. We have announcements. That's right. Don't go anywhere. I feel like I need to do a better job of telling everybody, don't leave right after that final jingle. We have announcements. So let me give them to you. Little Miss Red Velvet. First of all, I'm going to thank you. Said had the best day with the CC crew. Well, thank you so much for that. Let's talk a little bit about things you may have missed this week. First of all, on Wednesday, we had our Wednesday night live where we sat down with Joel Waldman for Surviving the Survivor. I always have such a great time with Joel. We had such a great time. We chatted, we joked, we got a little goofy. We got yelled at in the comments to keep it rolling. Nobody wants to hear you guys chit chat with each other all day long, but we had a good time. We talked a lot about Brian Walshe. We talked about Rebecca Park. In fact, he's been following that case as well. Really disturbing. So please check it out. It's on our channel right now. Yesterday, on a different channel, on a channel run by Kathy, who's a fantastic human being. Her channel is called Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo. We had a great chat ourselves about Brian Walshe. I'll make sure that you guys have the link to that. Please check it out. If you go over there, please send her some love and some juice boxes from all of us here at Courtroom Confidential. And then earlier today, we had a special live episode of the weekly rap sheet on Fox Nation. We wanted to do it live and earlier in the day because we didn't want to report to you something late and then find out that the Brian Walshe verdict already came in. So in anticipation of all of that, we did a special live release of that earlier today. It's on their platform right now. It's called The Weekly Rap Sheet with myself, Paul, Morrow, Donna Rotuno. Really good one. We're very proud of this episode, so please go check it out. We always, as always, Courtroom Confidential came in strong. I think every single question this week that was emailed in came from a Courtroom Confidential member, and I was gloating over our support. So thank you guys so much for all of that. And then finally, stay tuned. Today is Friday, which if history proves itself to be true, which will mean tomorrow is Saturday. And then if I put together my math correctly, that will mean that the following day is Sunday. Do you know what we do on Sunday? We have Sunday Fun Day, meaning we are going to answer your questions that you've left us throughout the week live at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. You've got some great questions this week. If you want to send your question in, you have until midnight Pacific this evening. So let us know if you have any other questions. I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of Brian Walshe stuff. I'm sure a lot of people are going to wonder about Luigi Mangione. Both of those were in court. So please ask us. We will be answering those this Sunday live at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Tiffany's got a big smile on her face, everybody. And she keeps on pointing at the comments saying 10 more subs until we hit 61,000. Should we do it right here live on the show? If you haven't already, well, I'm going to give you a moment because we've got a few seconds left with my announcements and the way I like to carry on at the very end. And we would love to hit that milestone of 61,000 while we're here with all of you. So if you haven't subscribed already, what a great opportunity. Help us go over the edge. Marie Jubinville has been a member for 7 months. Everybody, golf clap for Marie. She says, Josh, do you think Mr. Tipton was trying to testify for Brian Walshe today during closing by bringing up things not in evidence? I think he got really close to the line. I think he got close enough that they probably could have started objecting, but they didn't. And he just thought to himself, let me see how much I can get away with. Here's the thing, though. Marie, they were not fooled, meaning the jurors. As much as you weren't fooled, I don't think they were fooled. They know what they heard. I mean, this case, I feel like, is one of those things where you can really twist yourself into pretzels trying to wonder whether or not the jurors are going to get it. The guy made dozens of searches for how to cut up a body for his own wife, who was alive just hours ago. That's a guilty man. I don't think there's any way they're letting this man walk out the back door a free man. But thank you for that, Marie. On Monday, here's the schedule for the week. Monday, we have Monday night, our Monday night true crime docket that will be at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, right back here on this channel. Wednesday, we have our show called Wednesday Night Live. Again, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then all next week, we are on Verdict Watch. So the second a verdict comes in, you're going to jump to your computer, to your tablet, to your TV, however you watch YouTube. You're going to go to Courtroom Confidential live trials, and you're going to watch that verdict with all of us live. Where are we at? Oh, we've got 4 more subscribers. Should I riff a little bit more? We got 6 more to go. Catherine Rieger, thank you so much for gifting the Courtroom Confidential membership. See what happens when you stick around and you become a subscriber too? You get a free membership. So everybody who received that, please enjoy. Too late for me to reply. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that one. Solicitor Sage. All right. Yeah, I guess we could take some suggestions on the shirt color before we let you go. Alicia K. Mayo says it's rushed home chalky mint. That is true. It is rushed home chalky mint. That's an accurate description. Or cash money. I like that one as well. It was a flurry. I haven't eaten. Do I get a little sympathy? I haven't even eaten yet today. I'm starving, but I didn't want to keep you guys waiting any longer. Not so late slate green, says Afton. Bice says, be green, not mean. All of those are great. Here's the thing, though. If you would like, keep talking, Ritter, says Proud Grizzly. If you would like a Courtroom Confidential t-shirt in a plethora of different colors, here is our fall palette, as I've been told to describe it as, and all of our other colors, go to thecourtroomconfidential.com and click on that shop button. You can find all of them. They're very nice, very high quality. You'll enjoy it. Best Nancy, thank you so much for gifting the Courtroom Confidential membership. All right, guys. Oh, 3 away. I'm starving. Give me 3 more so I can go eat something. Come on, just a few more, says Best Nancy. Love the merch, says Kelly P. You know what? Here's somebody else you should do it for. Don't we have the best mods in the entire YouTubeosphere? Afton, Shy Gal, Kathy, therapists you know. Aren't they the absolute best? They put in so much work. We're so grateful for them. You guys are always so generous in donating coffees to them, keeping them wide awake. Do it for the mods. Do it for Kaylin. Kaylin's over here. Kaylin's sick today, guys. She's not feeling well. She's got the sniffles, and she's in, it's got to be cold wherever she's at, and she's still here. Do it for Kaylin. Just hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I've never had to do this kind of sad sort of begging, but I just want to see it happen. All right, where are we at? Oh, one more little subscriber, and we're going to hit that mark. I just want to do it while we're live at this point. Tiffany's got the biggest smile on her face. Farm Girl says, yes, absolutely. Love our mods. It is true she's sick. I don't make stuff like that up. We can do it, says JC Broadway. All right. How much more time am I going to give us here? I'm going to fall over from lack of from low blood sugar if we don't get this done quickly here. One more. We got one more. I can hang around for one more. What else can I share with you? Did it happen? Yay! 61,000 subscribers. You guys rock. You're all fantastic. Thank you so much. Hit subscribe. You won't regret it. A few of you should unsubscribe for a few minutes to keep Josh off. Oh, look at that. And we get confetti out of the whole thing. That was worth it. Go eat, says Afton. I think I'm going to do that. It has been a tremendous week. It has been busy. It has been long. It has been jam-packed. It's also been a little traumatic with some of those cases we were talking about. But it was all worthwhile because of all of you guys and the support of this community. I'm telling you, every single day, Tiffany and I turn to each other and go, I can't believe this. I can't believe the support that we're getting from these people. And it's because of all of you that we continue to do it. So Hippie Mimi, one last thank you. Thank you so much for the Courtroom Confidential membership. Wendy Joan, thank you for the coffees. Who else did I miss? Felicia says, yes, have a great weekend, everybody. You're all fantastic. See you all on Sunday, says KLBOG. Thank you guys for 61,000. Thank you for all your support. We will see you back here on Sunday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.